Let's start with your introduction first, and then I'll set up the agenda, like what we are going to talk about.
So for my introduction, I'm technically the CTO at AlphaBI. You already probably know about it. And at AlphaBI, I act as the product owner for all our running projects. I'm in constant conversations with the client, take their requirements, convert them into a product eventually.
So although you are the CTO of the company on papers, you said you are a product owner. So explain that. What's that?
So I think before we come to the product owner, we should talk a little bit about what Agile really is, what it requires from the people that
Fair
are.
enough. Fair enough. So the base topic that we're going to talk about today is like agile versus waterfall. But let's set up the base first. Like what is agile and what is waterfall?
So let's talk about waterfall first. Why was it a norm? Why it used to be a norm at a certain point? So waterfall has been the standard practice in manufacturing and other engineering practices. For example, construction, because there things are pretty straightforward. People give them requirements. You say you have standard practices and you make the product as per what the client really needs, which was taken up as a standard norm when software industry came into play. So everybody thought like waterfall works for everything else, why not even for the software? So everybody started using waterfall. But after a while, people found out that software engineering isn't exactly an engineering practice. There are a lot of uncertainties and variables at play when you're conducting a software project. And what people realized is that requirements constantly change. Dynamics of the entire project constantly changes. And which is why a bunch of people they came together and formed the Agile Manifesto. Some really great people who were very extremely experienced in very good software projects. So they came to form this sort of a mindset that was scalable and flexible enough to fit within the software framework. So because projects change from time to time, requirements are not exactly solidified when it comes to software projects. So this framework is flexible enough to fit in all the requirements and keeps working in an iterative manner and keeps adapting as per the changing requirements of the market.
So yeah, I think because software today are delivered very fast and users have their hands on the products very fast and give their feedbacks very quickly, that is why I think agile came up, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so my next question would be, of course, because we are getting feedback and adapting to those feedbacks is very important. That's why agile is important. But when we talk about the production side, what are some key features of the agile methodology?
So the core principle of agile is collaboration. And when you talk about collaboration in agile, it does not only limits to your team, but also the external factors. So the first thing that we do when it comes to agile is that we make a list of all the stakeholders. And stakeholders are not only the end users or the or your client, but stakeholder involves every single person that is involved in the development project.
Right.
So it involves the developers, the testers, the product owner, the scrum master, the client, and the client's end users. And let's say if you are building this project for a company, so every single person within the company who's going to end up using the project is going to be a stakeholder in this project. So now when it comes to collaboration, what truly happens in Agile is that everybody come together to form the requirements, solidify the requirements, and once the development process starts rolling, everybody comes in to provide their feedback, and all the feedback is considered as inputs for your next iteration, and all the feedbacks are going to fit inside within the complete development project somewhere or the other.
Right. So, how does a agile team look like? Like, so initially, traditionally, we just used to have project managers and a few developers under them and testers. But does uh, does an agile team looks different?
Yeah, I mean, it is a very subjective thing.
Mm.
It depends a lot upon the company that you are, like the development process and the development requirements of the company that is in question. But in standard practice, the only thing is that agile teams are supposed to be small. You cannot have a very large team.
Mm.
And in a lot of scenarios, agile teams are composed of permanent members and cross-functional members. So when it comes to permanent members, so Agile is very strict about one thing, and that is the product owner and the Scrum Master have to be dedicated to one particular team. So they are supposed to be dedicated to that team. Their entire effort has to go towards that
The
particular
Scrum
team.
Master and
The product owner.
okay.
And once those are done, then comes your standard development team. So you could have your senior developers, you could have your junior developers, you will have your QA team, and those are still the permanent members within the team. And then you will have your cross-functional team. So cross-functional team also varies from company to company, but in our case, we have our UI/UX designer who is a cross-functional member who works across many teams. We have code reviewers who are cross-functional, and we have DevOps engineers who are cross-functional.
Okay. So there's not a lot of changes in the team structure, but what I understand is the project manager gets divided into a product owner and a scrum master, right?
Yeah,
Like the base of those rules come from the project
yeah,
manager.
and the team has to be small and focused. That is the entire
Right.
core principle.
Right. Okay. That's about agile. Like, do you still use waterfall method sometimes? Like, are there any projects like a particular type of project where waterfall would suit more?
We used to. In the
Okay.
earlier stages of our company, when we had fewer people working on the team and when our structure was coming into place, so most of our projects were in a waterfall system, but it did not scale so well. And also it had rather bad impacts wherein our timelines would get extended. We would not have feedback from our clients, and our requirements, our end products would end up becoming drastically different from what the client was actually expecting.
Right.
So,
So we can still use waterfall sometimes when it comes to enterprise applications where there are not a lot of users
yeah,
and a
but
lot of feedback.
and
That's
you
it.
should still avoid,
Yeah. Of
because
course.
it would end up in a lot of chaos during deliveries.
Have you faced any such chaos?
A lot of chaos. A lot of chaos. We have faced a ton of chaos where we had also it directly impacted monetarily not only to us but also the clients, because they would not receive their products on the day that they were expecting, and they would not get values delivered quickly. That is the whole point over here.
Right. So coming back to my initial question, from where we left off, what is a product owner?
So right, the product owner is technically, so there are two players in Agile. So two key players. One is the product owner and one is the Scrum Master. So you can say product owner is the advocate for the client. So his entire job is to bring the requirements as well defined as possible to the development team and keep the client in loop with the entire project and bring their feedback and translate it into developable requirements. Whereas Scrum Master is the advocate for the development team. So this is the person who is going to arrange, orchestrate the sprint throughout, and is also going to, act as an advocate for the team when they require to. So, for example, if they have any sort of feedback that they want to provide to the owner of the project owners, then Scrum Master will be the way through.
Okay. So the product owner is kind of a vision transfer guy who brings in the customer's vision and transfers it to the Scrum Master who actualize it.
And yes, Scrum Master is mostly the orchestrator over here.
Yeah. Okay. So how does a day for a Scrum Master look like?
They have a lot of responsibilities, to be honest. So first of all, like their main responsibility would be on the day when everybody's together discussing the next set of tasks that are going to be taken up in the sprint. Scrum Master is also going to be breaking down the task and the work packages into smaller, granular, workable issues. And also, like if there is any sort of communication document, compliance document, then it'll fall upon the Scrum Master to formulate all of that, gather all the information, and put it in a representational manner.
Okay, got it. Okay, let's say I get hired as a CTO tomorrow, hypothetically, in a company. How do I start setting up Agile there?
I mean, so first, assuming that the team is not working on Agile already, so what you'll have to do is you'll have to figure out what are the priorities of the development team at that moment. So you'll have to talk to a lot of other people. So for example, you'll have to talk to the CEO, you have to talk to the sales team, you'll have to talk to the marketing team. What is required from the product first and foremost. That is how you will be structuring your team going forward. So now that you know what is important for the team in your coming future, so you note all of these things down. See whether development team is in the process. What is already, like what are the things that are ready to be developed? What are the things that are nowhere ready to be put into the scene? Figure those things out, set priorities, and then assign tasks to the teams. And also in a lot of other a lot of companies, the problem is that their teams are very large. So in that case, what you'd have to do is like divide the team into like isolated teams. Not isolated per se. There'll obviously be a lot of codependency, but isolate them in a manner that none of the teams act as a blocker towards the other team. And put them both into their own agile cycles.
Got it. Sorry, I forgot a point before. Product owner, when it comes to a service company like ours, talks to the customer, right? Who is both our customer and the user. But when a product owner is working in a product company, let's say he'll also talk to the customers, there users.
Yeah. So obviously,
because of course he'll get the vision from the CEO of the company or the product manager, and then there are also the users that are actually using the product.
Yeah, well, it is the responsibility of the product owner to understand what is to be needed. So the source of information could be anything. It could be through the CEO. He could directly talk to a lot of teams. So if that is, especially when the team is very young, if it's a startup, the CTO or the product owner would be the same person, and they would be responsible to talk to their customers, figure out what is really needed, and then prioritize things accordingly.
So there's creative freedom for the product owner.
Yes.
So wherever he wants to gather the information.
Yes, and it is, to a lot of extent, it is actually necessary that the product owner has a lot of flexibility on that end.
Right. Okay. So we've talked about the team structure. Let's go on to the tools. What tools do you use currently, and around that?
So ideally, the principle of Agile is to be flexible, right? So ideally, you wouldn't even require a software tool to manage any of your projects. That was the whole fundament of the funda. So the point being that people should also be able to manage their projects on paper, but that would not scale very well, as we have a lot of practical problems, right? We would want integrations with our software systems. We would want integration with our CI/CD pipelines. So eventually, we ended up using tools. But if you talk about tools, there are a lot of tools that are useful in a lot of scenarios. So you would probably want a project management tool in place. So you have a lot of tools. You probably know about Notion, you know about ClickUp. We have Jira. Jira is the
standard.
Yeah, it's pretty much an industry standard. But then there are also a lot of open source tools, like the one we use at AlphaBI, which is Open Project. Completely open source, has a lot of integration possibilities. The UI kind of sucks, but that more than makes up for the features that it provides.
Right.
And also you would want tools for communicate, like streamlining your communication. So you would have something like Microsoft Teams, you would have something like Slack in place where people can freely drop messages whenever they can. Even if someone opens up an issue on your repository or maybe a project management tool, it should reflect upon your Slack so that people can have a conversation over there directly. So yeah, a pivotal conversation unit.
So we don't
is
need
necessary.
a hell lot of tools and very complicated tools to set up everything. It's quite simple, and
Yeah.
things like Slack and Microsoft Teams, like everybody is using today. So you don't have to put special efforts on that side.
Yeah,
I'd
you
say.
do not need to put a lot of efforts, and it should be the case. Like if
Right.
you're focusing a lot on your tools, maybe you are doing something wrong.
Of course.
Yeah, so things need to be simple and straightforward.
Right. I think this kind of sums up our conversation on this topic.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get you back on this sofa sometime again for some other topic.
I mean, I sit
Very
right
soon.
next year. So.
Yeah, so you'll obviously have to come. Okay. Thanks for joining.